It's time for the in-depth scientific discussion of our program. Each episode we talk about a different pathology. This evening we talk about a very common pathology in Italy, especially among women, and I'm talking about phlebitis. That's why we give an introductory video of the pathology. Let's see it.
Today we are going to talk about phlebitis. What are phlebitis? They are inflammations regarding the venous system, regarding both legs and arms, and these veins can go through an inflammatory process. This inflammatory process gives rise to phlebitis. We can distinguish a superficial phlebitis regarding mainly the more superficial veins, and a deep phlebitis regarding the deep veins. We have to consider that the two systems are connected to each other.
Dr. Francesco Pollice provided us with a basic explanation of phlebitis, which is an inflammatory condition commonly affecting the venous system in the legs and arms. This condition typically leads to discomfort and swelling.
Yes, it is a degenerative disease that involves the immune system precisely in those districts, so the legs and arms, where obviously inflammation of the circulatory system sets in. The most frequent, obviously, in the legs is a condition that unfortunately involves a lot of people in Italy.
That's exactly how many people are involved here in Italy with this pathology?
You have to think that venous insufficiency, which is one of the conditions that then leads to a state of chronic phlebitis, involves something like 30% of men and 55% of women. Well, 60% of these people then get to phlebitis.
As previously mentioned, The Health Seeker is a comprehensive scientific program aimed at providing accurate information to our viewers. That's precisely why I would like to share this video with our entire audience, which demonstrates the presentation of phlebitis. Let's watch it collectively to gain a better understanding.
How does phlebitis manifest itself clinically? It's very simple. You have redness of the leg, you have edema, swelling, pain, and also difficulty walking. It's these symptoms that alarm people, and then they go to the doctor, they go to the specialist to ask what to do. Diagnosis of phlebitis is done both clinically, that is, the specialist visits you, takes a look, touches the veins, touches the limb, and then most importantly, it is with echo color Doppler examination that you have an accurate diagnosis.
Here, Panzironi, these were the classic symptoms of phlebitis. What do you think?
Yes, they are very easy to distinguish because they are the classic symptoms of inflammation. So the edema, the redness, the painful part, however, very often it is also underestimated by patients because this phlebitis can go to affect then with a deeper phlebitis and create clots that, if they then leave, can reach precisely to the lungs and create, in short, a pulmonary embolism that instead is a fatal disease.
Immediately, we emphasize the importance of not underestimating this condition. Our advice is to consult with your doctor and get tested, just as Dr. Paulus explained in the video. Priority should be given to seeking medical support without delay.
Yes, we always agree on going to one's doctor to make diagnoses because it is essential that people first of all understand whether or not they are sick with that pathology, and especially that it is not underestimated. The problem, if anything, is that once official medicine has detected the presence of phlebitis, it doesn't actually then have all those protocols that are so effective to then be able to actually counteract the occurrence of this pathology.
Here, then, it is my understanding that you don't really agree with the treatment protocols of official medicine. So let's go, however, to make everybody understand, obviously, to see a video that explains what are the treatment protocols of official medicine towards phlebitis. Let's see it.
How do you treat phlebitis or deep vein thrombosis? It is treated with anticoagulants. You start with low molecular weight heparin and then continue with Coumadin, which is an oral anticoagulant. Currently, there are tablets where you don't need to do PT or PTT check every 15-20 days. This is the basic therapy of deep vein thrombosis. It is also very often associated with elastic compression, with elastic stockings, or with elastic bandage. There is no need to do antibiotics. I see very often prescribing antibiotics in this situation. Antibiotics are bad. Heparin or oral anticoagulant is enough.
So Panzironi heard the doctor treats himself with anticoagulants and elastic pressure. What do you think?
I can tell you that we're still at the same old thing. First of all, giving pills to prevent blood clotting does not mean to solve the pathology, but if anything, it means to prevent those famous complications, such as precisely pulmonary embolism, and then really using elastic bands, so elastic stockings. It really seems to me an almost medieval solution.
In the video, just Dr. Polis said that some of his colleagues also used to give antibiotics. Do you agree with that?
It may be a strategy the moment you realize, obviously, that there is a problem of phlebitis related to a bacterial invasion. In that case, it makes sense from antibiotics. But regardless of that, unfortunately, official medicine does nothing but counteract these diseases, always going so far as to administer drugs and does nothing instead to try to solve the cause. Yet I have to tell you that the solutions are there within medicine itself, however, with researcher medicine, because there are so many scientists who have discovered the reasons for phlebitis. It would simply serve this official medicine to be less concerned with protocols and more to listen to their eminent scientists.
So you, as always, found these researchers, studied them in depth, studied them, and let's say, so collected them within a tutorial for our audience to understand. So I would tell the director to air this tutorial.
Phlebitis depends on an inflammatory process in the tonaca intima of the venous vessels. During this inflammatory process, cells of the immune system, leukocytes, are activated, which produce special enzymes, metalloproteases, called MMPs, which allow collagen degradation and migration of the leukocytes themselves out of the circulatory system. MMPs cause weakening of the venous wall, dilation of the veins, and dysfunction of the venous valve. After the inflammatory process is over, MMPs should be inhibited by glycoproteins called TIMPs, which are also able to activate cell proliferation and induce tissue reconstruction. Cells in the matrix initiate the production of TIMPs at the end of inflammation, but they are also stimulated by the presence of insulin, which binds to particular receptors, the IGF-BP sets. When the balance between MMPs and TIMPs is altered, then phases of venous tonaca degradation alternate with phases of reconstruction, which induces remodeling of the venous wall tissue, which dilates and loses its elasticity.
So Panzironi, the video was really very explanatory. However, I would like to go into some more precise issues. First of all, you talked about metalloproteases. What exactly are they?
They are enzymes that are produced by certain cells, and they are used to degrade the matrix. In this specific case, they are produced by leukotrienes, which are cells of the immune system that degrade the vessel wall to get out of the blood and go into what are the tissues that are being infected either virally or bacterially. The problem, however, is that the moment we have inflammation that is not acute but is chronic, we continue to degrade and thus damage the wall of the veins.
So this is an inflammatory pathology.
Absolutely, it is an inflammatory condition precisely because it is related to the immune system. So overactivation of the immune system leads to excessive degradation of precisely these walls and thus also leads to its dilation.
Here, in fact, in the tutorial, we talk about these inhibitors practically of metalloproteases, the TIMPs that should practically rebalance this phenomenon of degradation of the venous walls.
Certainly, because our body, when faced with an inflammation, once it is over, has to restore those damages that have been caused. And it always does it through inhibitors. In this case, the TIMPs are produced by the cells that are present in the endothelium that go to stop the metalloproteases, thus allowing reconstruction. The problem is, however, that in this pathology, the inflammation continues, so you prevent the production of these TIMPs, although actually I have to tell you that in this specific case, you have just excessive production even of TIMPs within the pathology of phlebitis.
So basically, despite these inhibitors, basically the degenerative process continues.
It continues, and there is this dual phase. On the one hand, there is a process that continues to degenerate clearly the wall of the veins, and on the other hand, we have a repair effect right on stimulation and production of this TIMPA. The problem is that you have a chaotic reconstruction of this tissue, and so the circulatory system is no longer as elastic and as efficient as before.
So what does this excessive inflammation, this excessive presence of TIMP depend on?
It basically depends on what we eat. So it depends on our diet, and particularly just the Mediterranean diet. This diet that is based on highly sugar-rich foods such as bread, pasta, pizza, potatoes, rice, and legumes that are the real reason for the occurrence of phlebitis.
So those who follow you know exactly what you are talking about. However, I would like you to better explain this statement of yours.
In reference to TIMPs, we have to, as we saw precisely in the video, remember that TIMPs are produced, as we said, by the cells that are present in the endothelium upon stimulation of IGF-1, which is a special receptor. But this receptor is also very sensitive to insulin. So every time we eat carbohydrates, we activate insulin, and insulin pushes the production of these TIMPs. And then they create this contrasting phenomenon. But in any case, it leads to a chaotic reconstruction, as we said before. On the other hand, we have shown by now with so many studies, there are really tens of thousands of them, how a diet rich in carbohydrates is able to induce dysfunction of the venous endothelium, and it does it with its glycemic ups and downs. It does it with its production of book radicals. So there is this dual phenomenon. On the one hand, the continuous degradation and inflammation of the wall. On the other hand, the excessive production of collagen, and thus all the symptoms that we have seen in phlebitis.
So I too, Panzironi, thank you for these explanations that are always very precise and normally. Our focus continues after the explanation, of course, of the pathology, continues with a witness, a person who, thanks to the Life 120 lifestyle created by you, has seen the pathology resolved, has been cured of this pathology. So that's why I would like to call here Mrs. Luciana Ferrara from Naples. Good evening, Mrs. Ferrara.
Good evening.
Please take a seat then. Let's get straight to the point. How long have you been suffering from phlebitis?
I was 35 years old.
So you have been suffering from phlebitis since you were 35 years old?
Constant pain and suffering, different treatments, different specialists. But it was too terrible pain just recently. Just last year it was terrible. Because I was prescribed bandages, the pain was too much.
Let's go in order. So you tell me for 35 years, I don't want to be rude because you don't ask a lady's age, you're 71 years old. So basically for 36 years, you've been suffering from this condition.
Terrible.
What kind of issue was giving you? Because you were telling me that you were having pains.
First of all, one can no longer move. You have to stay in bed because it swells the leg, it swells, and sometimes even changes the color a little bit, especially the right leg. In short, any treatment never gave me any effect. The last stocking they gave me, I took it off because I had no results anyway.
And before seeing how he dealt with this condition under counseling, that's right, you went...
In the emergency room, they were giving me shots in my belly, then lumps started to form. In short, it was a continuous crack the truth.
An ordeal for 35 years. The doctors
Yes,
were obviously giving you...
Antibiotics also, I took many pills, sachets, anti-inflammatories, in short, without any effect.
Without any effect, you can say that, right?
Yes, without any results. I had become a subscriber to the emergency room, which then was not an emergency room. I thank the doctors who made themselves available, who was a former student of mine, who took me there because I couldn't walk. It was debilitating, really debilitating, and I began to get scared in my later days.
But then you got to know the Life 120
I met
lifestyle.
the Life 120 lifestyle.
How long ago?
1 year ago.
You learned about the Life 120 lifestyle and then followed this type of diet?
And for the next month and a half already, I forgot this phlebitis. I was surprised. I say still I didn't get the pain. And this I owe to him, huh?
So you forgot about this phlebitis?
Yes, I forgot about the phlebitis.
Is no longer there?
No.
Now you don't take anything anymore?
I don't take anything at all. I just take vitamin C, which I recommend to everyone, and vitamin D.
Ok, allora, I thank Mrs. Ferrara.
I thank you. But really wholeheartedly, I owe a lot to Adriano Panzironi because he solved an existential problem for me. Generally, I'm a shy guy, a bit reserved. For him, I made an exception because he is a good person for me.